Hey there, and welcome to the SBVC Centennial Podcast. My name is Thomas Robles, and I am a proud alumnus here at SBVC. This podcast is part of SBVC's Centennial Celebration. Each episode, we will highlight the people that make SBVC way more than just a college. We'll talk to alumni, faculty, staff, local leaders, and community partners about how this campus opened doors, built careers, and inspired generations. Welcome to the SBVC Centennial Podcast, where we celebrate 100 years of stories here at San Bernardino Valley College. Hey there, everybody. This is Thomas Robles, and welcome back to the SBVC Centennial Podcast. Today, I have the honor of interviewing an alumnus from the year 1975, class of 1975. I'm here with one of San Bernardino's most recognizable local historians, the Nick Cataldo. Good morning, Nick. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Tom. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. Please tell me a little bit about yourself. You said that you have a lot of history here in San Bernardino. What made you the de facto, or one of the de facto historians of the area?
Well, I've always had a strong interest in history. I'm originally from New Jersey. I'm a New Jersey boy. And I developed an interest in baseball history. And I still have that passion. When we moved out west, we moved to San Bernardino. Prior to that, there used to be a lot of Westerns on TV during the 1960s. And both of my grandfathers liked, the Old West. They liked that stuff. And as a kid, I knew that the Old West was out there somewhere. So we, after we moved to San Bernardino, I found out this is definitely part of the West. I was 12 years old. I already had heard about Wyatt Earp, legendary gunfighter from one of the TV shows, Life and Legend of Wyatt Earp. And I found out that Wyatt Earp lived out here. So I started developing an interest in that. And I just would look at, I started looking at street names and find out what do these names mean. And I was interested in that because I was really shy kid. And I felt like, in a way, I was like a fish out of water. Coming from New Jersey, a different culture, to San Bernardino in the 60s, going to 7th grade. I had to develop, find something that gave me comfort and interest. And after a while, I started finding out a little about the history of the area. By the time I was in the 1970s, during the bicentennial of our country, I started really, kind of getting involved and reading a lot of stuff in the newspaper and tying things together. I remember when the San Bernardino was a bicentennial city in 1977. And then later on, I joined the San Bernardino Historical Society, and it just kind of catapulted. But really, it started out when I was a kid. And, even by the early 70s, I was just out of high school, I had an interest in history, local history, and how it ties in with the country.
So, Nick, you're an alumni of class of 1975. You went to Valley College in the 70s. Can you paint a picture? What was Valley College like at that time?
First of all, for San Bernardino Valley College, my desire, once I was getting ready to graduate from high school, I graduated from Cajon High School in 1972. And I was intending to go to Cal State San Bernardino as a freshman. I really didn't have any goals. I really didn't know what I was going to do in the future. I was not a great student, but I knew that, I wanted to go to college. Because my family, nobody in my family had gone. That's what I wanted to do. And I didn't know where Valley College was, but I wasn't planning on going there. Well, it turned out that's where I was accepted. And once I came to Valley to look at what classes were available and talk to some of the teachers. This is back before internet, so you did everything in person. I talked to a woman named Mrs. January, who was, I don't know if she was a counselor, possibly so. She was the kindest person, and she put me at ease. We talked about classes that were available, and I knew this was the place.
Can you describe what the campus was like back in the day? What were the buildings like? I know that we have a lot of new buildings on campus.
Sure.
What was that like for you in the 70s?
Well, all the buildings, most of the buildings were, I guess, were the original buildings here, built in the late 20s, early 30s. They had a Spanish-style roof, and the walls were kind of seemed like a golden color, I think stucco. And there was a North Hall. There was the gymnasium. The library was, I'm not sure when that was built, maybe a little later on, but that was there. And the Greek Theater, I'm hoping that's still there. Yes. I don't know if it is or not. The campus center was right next to the Greek Theater. That's where we had, the cafeteria was. You go downstairs and, there's a little store with that bookstore where you buy your books, for the coming year. And, there was a life science building. There's a biology building. The theater, I think you call it the Little Theater. I'm not sure if it was called that or not. And I remember the location. Some of the newer buildings were the liberal arts, what had English. It was further towards actually close to where we are right now. I think it's kind of like the south end of the campus. And it was great. It was relaxing. It was a relaxing atmosphere outside of the campus, the campus center. I think they call it that. Yeah, campus center. We get eat inside or eat outside. The Greek Theater, every Friday there were concerts.
How cool is that, right? Yeah. That we have like this little music hub.
That's right, exactly. Oh yeah, very much so. Yeah.
Nick, when you think back on your time here as a student and as a community member, can you describe what SBVC was like then and how it's impacted the community now?
San Bernardino Valley College was always been a big part of the community. It's for a lot of people that could not afford to go to a university or didn't have the grades, like in my case. Valley College was the place to be. Education-wise, it was, and I'm sure it is, top of the line. And so many people that have made an impact in San Bernardino and the surrounding area went to Valley College. And from Judith Valles, who was a former mayor of San Bernardino. She was one of my Spanish teachers.
You're kidding.
She was tough because I remember she would not allow us to speak English in the class. So I was quiet, and then I learned a little bit of Spanish, and I took other Spanish classes also. I had also Pat Morris, who was a former mayor of San Bernardino. He came here also. An elderly friend of mine, one of my early, I guess what kind of mentors for local history was Dorothy Ingram. And Dorothy Ingram was the first African-American teacher in San Bernardino, first African-American administrator in the whole state of California. And she went to Valley College.
Tell me a little bit more about your relationship with Dorothy Ingram. She's got so much influence throughout the campus now. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about what was she like, everything.
Okay, sure. I met Dorothy. I joined the Historical Society, the San Bernardino Historical and Pioneer Society. I met her in 1980. There was some kind of function. I believe it was installation of officers, which we don't quite get as elaborate now with that. But it was a big event, and she was there. And I remember hearing the name Dorothy Ingram. I had already heard her names. I believe I have one of her books called Beyond All This. It's a wonderful book. It's an autobiography of she and her family, and they came out here in the 1880s. She was born in 1905 or 1906. She was on the board, one of the board members for the Historical Society. Very, very nice. She was eager to share information, and I just, I would talk to her a lot about local history, and she, we became, she became friends with a lot of people, but she became a good friend of mine and a good confidant. And we had her as a guest speaker at our historical site many years later when she was already 100. I think 100. She died at 105 years old, I believe. And she lived talking about her growing up here. What I really was impressed is being a black woman of being a woman, who during the time when women did not take, we call assume out of the home roles, or they weren't recognized for their, for being more than just at home. Mm-hmm.
I opened our episode today by saying that you're one of the de facto historians in the community. Now I got to ask you, Nick, when did you know that getting involved with local history was going to be a jewel in your career or your life here in San Bernardino?
Okay. Because going through school, junior high and high school, as I mentioned earlier, I didn't know what I wanted to do for a living. My big interest is always baseball. Mm. And unfortunately, my interest, my knowledge of baseball has never matched up with my ability to do well. So I would have loved to play center field for the New York Yankees. Mm. Well, that didn't happen. I was not good enough. I didn't have the discipline also for that. I didn't know what I wanted, but I started getting to, which started out just being historical facts, but I like researching. And then I, did more and more research, not knowing that I was researching. I just looking up information. And I found this to be interesting. I joined the Historical Society in 1980, basically the same year I started teaching special education. I loved my career as a teacher. But this was always like my avocation. And as I was doing more of that, I still didn't think of this as being, life going, although I guess I did. It just started becoming, the more I would get into the history, the more people would ask me. Mm. And next the more contacts I had, and I wasn't seeking contacts, then it started branching out. And then I started writing for our historical site publications. Mm. And it wasn't until many years later I started writing for the San Bernardino Sun. I started writing for the newspaper. Now, since '98, this is sure many years later. And the more I've done, the more I'm in contact. I'm asked to, for information. I started writing, and next it's become, I guess, a big part of my persona, I guess.
That's so cool. And you being a writer for the Sun, you're tapped into all the communities in the area.
Yeah.
Right? I'd imagine the stories you hear are inspirational. They're probably out there sometimes, but so much wealth of story comes from this region. Right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Wow. And to be a steward of that is so cool.
Well, thank you.
As someone who's studied San Bernardino history, are there any chapters that are often left out or misunderstood by the wider public? Are there parts of our history that you want to really highlight?
I started out with my interest in the history of San Bernardino surrounding area because of my own interest. It was interesting. Mm. But the more I got into it, the more I started thinking about how this fits in a larger picture. Mm. And I'm adamant about this. Local history, whether it be San Bernardino or elsewhere, is part of a larger whole. Mm. And specifically San Bernardino, it was the San Bernardino Sun, I believe, is one of the entity that they gave this a nickname for San Bernardino called the Gate City in 1905. Mm-hmm. And the Gate City, meaning that everybody coming out. And so you found out everybody coming out west, say during the wagon train days, the 1840s, 1830s, they came to San Bernardino because San Bernardino was settled by the Mormon settlers from Utah, formed the town of San Bernardino. Before that, it was a Mexican rancho by the Lugo family. But when the Mormons made the town, there were only a couple towns in Southern California. It was Los Angeles, El Monte, a small town, and San Bernardino. Coming out from the East Coast, or most of the population was. They came out here. They went to San Bernardino. You had to go. You're crossing this big, what seemed like a desolate desert, and it hurt. San Bernardino was become a fertile land. It became a freighting town. It was the railroad eventually came to San Bernardino. It was just, and it was geographically convenient to go to the mountains. That's how it is today. What the importance, the mountains, later on the beaches, Los Angeles, San Bernardino was there, and each aspect of history of San Bernardino's development is part of the California movement. If you're studying the history of California, from the natives, the indigenous population, here were the Yahaviatam, simple, you recall the Serrano, but Yahaviatam is what the locals call themselves, and the Chemehuevi and different tribes. They were here. Of course, they're still here, but it's part of the California movement.
As a bit of a youngster, right, in a novice historian, right, to learn that we just have so much just in our backyard. How cool is that?
Oh,
right?
yeah.
We're not just San Bernardino. We are part of American history.
Absolutely. If you study any aspect of U.S. history, it's especially California history, but even parts of the whole country, you can somehow tie it into here, how things happen. Yeah.
That's awesome. Nick, in Valley College's 100-year history, how has Valley College impacted the identity of the local community?
Valley College has produced so many future leaders of San Bernardino that have stayed in San Bernardino or globally or throughout California. It also has has an impact on sports. I mean, baseball. I was one of my fellow students when I took an English class here with Mr. Coble, who was a great teacher, funny and a good teacher. Well, his name is Julio Cruz, and I didn't realize until he mentioned one of these days that he just signed a contract with the Angels, and he played baseball. He played with the White Sox for about 6 or 8 years, and I believe it was Rich Dower. I think may have gone to school here too. I'm not sure, and so yeah. I believe there were celebrities that came here, that arrived here, they gave presentations here. With the vocational shops here at Valley, it's produced a lot. It had an impact on the workforce.
Yes, sir.
And the education. The fact that San Bernardino Valley College was inexpensive compared to state universities. Although for me it wasn't that expensive, but if you don't have much. Sure. And it just had an impact on. It helped out with the GI Bill. It was very supportive, supportive for the whole community. Theater, the theater here, everything was good.
And to speak about the trades, we actually just interviewed the new chair of the aeronautics department, Francisco Gonzalez, and he got to talk about Art Shaw and how he was kind of a key aeronautics figure in that field at the time. He was like the guy. Yeah. And he was here at San Bernardino Valley College.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah.
Super cool. Nick, do you think that it's important for San Bernardino to archive and highlight its history?
The people that love this town, it really impresses me how much they gravitate to this town. And it's important to, even though it's easy to talk about, bring up the negative issues, there's so much positive here, and it's important to bring out the positive, the great things that are happening. I mean, it's kind of a human nature to complain, and in the course of a day, there are far more great things that happen than negative things. And in this area here, this is great stuff.
Diamond in the rough. I like to call. I'm pretty sure you're aware. Crafton Hills, our sister college. They call it the Emerald on the Hill. Yeah. Right. Okay, yeah. So something that I love to do for Valley College, since we're talking about treasure, I like to call it the Sapphire of the Valley. So,
okay, yeah.
Right. I put that on a T-shirt. Okay. But I really can agree with you that there's just so much to highlight amongst everything else going on in every community, right?
That's right.
But San Bernardino just has so much positive going on with it, and the people. That's what drives this community forward. It's the hearts and the minds of the people that care.
Very much so. Yeah.
So we've been asking every one of our guests in this project. The last question is, as a whole sentence, in your own words, to you, San Bernardino Valley College is blank. And this could be a one-word phrase, a paragraph, a story. Make it yours. To you, San Bernardino Valley College is, and then you answer. If you can answer the whole question.
Okay. People need to know how important San Bernardino Valley College is. It's not just a junior college. It's kind of a backbone of this community. And people, every student going through high school, they have to decide, where they want to go, what their goals are. It's important to know that San Bernardino Valley College has a lot to offer. It has been an important backbone of this community and this region for so many years, and it continues to do so. And so many people have benefited. I certainly have benefited in many, many ways. And it's to look into this. Big name universities are great, and there's nothing wrong with that. But local, economic-wise, that's a smart way to go, because not everybody can afford to go to college. It's the way demographics are, and the economy is. It's not, possible for a lot of people. But right here, local, what a wonderful place. It's a diamond.
Thank you so much for coming by today, Nick. I really can't share with you enough how much of an honor it is to have you here in the podcast studio, to share your story and to share the an enormous wealth of history that we have in our community. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you, Tom. It's been a pleasure to be here and talking with you.
Thank you so much. I want to give a special shout out to Daniel Rodriguez, who was our producer and our main editor. Everything that we do behind the scenes is because of him. So thank you, Daniel, for all of your work and everything that you do. I also want to give a quick shout out to the FTVM department here at Valley College for allowing us to use this space. This is the best thing that we could do for this project. So thank you, FTVM, for everything that you do, not just for us in this project, but also our students and community. Now, with that being said, everybody, my name is Thomas Robles. This is the San Bernardino Valley College Centennial Podcast. Valley up.